In the following brief video, I'd like to give an overview of a forthcoming publication. This is a 400-page book of propers that will be published probably in a week, maybe 2 weeks, but is very, very close to publication. And I think we're probably going to call it the Simple English Psalm Tones. That's kind of the title that we've been using as a working title. And again, we're getting so close to final publication here that I suppose we should think of an official name for it, but it'll probably be called the Simple English Psalm Tones. But just to give you kind of the reason why this book was published, I think we're all aware that in the ordinary form of the Mass, it is technically allowed to replace all of the propers of the Mass. That's called the fourth option. Okay, so that's technically allowed. Just like, for example, it's technically allowed to replace all of the responsorial psalms with what's called seasonal psalms. That would be technically allowed too. Nobody does it, but that would be technically allowed. So there's no question about whether it's allowed. The problem is that more and more musicians are becoming uncomfortable with the idea of what I call the spin the wheel tactic. In other words, where the musician, the individual musician, chooses all of the texts and music each Sunday to replace the propers. That's becoming uncomfortable for some people because it ends up to be a situation where the musician and the individual musician of each church kind of creates each liturgy each week. As opposed to, for example, simply praying the texts assigned by the church for each Mass. Okay? So that's kind of where this book came from, in the sense that so many people are trying to get away from what I call that spin the wheel approach, which is just replacing all the propers all the time. And unfortunately, we've come 30, 40 years where people have been replacing the propers for so long, sometimes people don't even know what they're replacing anymore. But you're looking at sample pages from the Vatican II hymnal. You can see that it has all the readings and all the propers for each and every single Mass. Okay, so this might be a way that you could start kind of showing people what they're replacing because it has all the texts. So, for example, the introit, it has ad te levavi animam meam in Latin, and then in English, unto you, O Lord, have I lifted up my soul. That's the introit, or what's also called the entrance chant for the first Sunday of Advent, year A. So, instead of replacing all these texts, for example, unto you have I lifted up my soul, instead of just replacing it, people are saying, well, no, we want to sing this. The church gives it to us. The church gives it to us to sing. But the thing is, a lot of people are not able to perhaps sing the entire thing immediately in Latin. So they'll be doing it in English. Many people use, for example, the Simple English Propers by Adam Bartlett and the CMAA. And so they sing it in English, in other words. But here's what I wanted to talk about with that. The thing is that really what people are aiming for is consistency. So, for example, if they're singing propers, and now I'll turn to what's called the Simple English Propers, every so often you get into a situation, for example, sickness, maybe the musician is sick, or maybe he has a family situation, or maybe he's out of town, or maybe there's 7 Masses on each Sunday and the musician is only getting paid to do 1 Mass or something like that. There's any number of situations that can make it so that perhaps even it becomes impossible to sing the introit or offertory or communion or something like that. It just becomes impossible. And so here we are trying to have consistency and trying to train our people and our congregations that each Mass has its own special prayer, which goes back a lot of times 1,500 years or more even. So we're trying to do that and be consistent about it every Sunday. But then sometimes you get into a situation where it's impossible to sing, for example, the Simple English Propers. Now, myself, I've been trained in Gregorian chant my whole life. So, for example, let's say I was the only musician there on the 14th Sunday. I could go into the choir loft and I could sing, "We have received your mercy, O God, in the midst of your temple." I could sing the whole piece because I can sight read Gregorian chant. But perhaps not everyone is able to instantly sight read everything perfectly. And the Simple English Propers has a lot of different pieces in different modes, using different melodic types. And so every so often it's just not possible. So that's I guess what I'm trying to get across. Rather than all of a sudden just replace it with a hymn or just not sing it, it's better to have consistency so that every Sunday, no matter what, people will at least hear these propers, even if they're very short. Most of them are only a sentence long or 2 sentences long. So that's where this new publication comes in. Now I'm showing you a sample page of this 400-page book that's going to, as I mentioned, come out really soon, maybe in a week or even less than that. But these are even more simplified versions of the simple English propers. And so they all use, a very, very simple melodic type. And I just feel that no matter what musicians are missing, no matter who is there, anyone can sing these settings, no matter what, without any practice or anything. They're all written out. Let me show you just a couple pages. See, they're all written out. There's no guesswork. It's just open it up and sing it. And it goes through all the different feasts. It goes all the way down. It's like 400 pages. So it has everything in here, and you just open it up and sing. And they're simplified versions of everything. So, again, the point is that, let's say that, for example, your musician is missing on the first Sunday of Advent. Let's go back to this simple English propers over here. Or let's say, for example, you have a piece that you didn't have time to rehearse because somebody was sick. So you look at this, for example, offertory years A and B from the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You see, this, if you don't have time to practice, this might be a piece that's impossible for you to sing because you just didn't have any time to practice. So that's when you can pull out these simple settings in this forthcoming publication called Simple English Psalm Tones. And let me just show you how they would sound, for example. Let me zoom in here so maybe you can see a little bit better as I'm singing. And it always gives the Latin, by the way, so there's no question what you're singing. There's no question about it. So, for example, it just goes, "Unto you have I lifted up my soul. O my God, I trust in you. Let me not be put to shame. Do not allow my enemies to laugh at me. For none of those who are awaiting you will be disappointed." And the verse, "Make your ways known unto me, O Lord, and teach me your paths." And it continues with the Gloria Patri. So as you can see, very simple. You can just pull it out and just do it. And it's not even sometimes if you have a situation where people are missing. These settings can be used, for example, even if you're already doing a hymn. So, for example, if the priest, for instance, you sing the entrance hymn, and the priest starts incensing the altar at the introit, for example, you could at least just quickly sing, "People of Zion, behold, the Lord is coming to save all nations." By the way, it'll sound a lot better with a choir than it does just me solo singing it, but I'm just trying to give you an idea. "And the Lord shall cause you to hear his majestic voice for the joy of your heart." Then the verse, which you could even leave off if you wanted to. That's not required that you sing the verse. But let's say you just do that. See, just getting people to hear the propers, getting it into their mind. Another example, the communion. Anyone can sing any of these communions. Let's see how long it takes. Does it even take 10 seconds? "Arise, O Jerusalem, and stand on high, and behold the joy that shall come to you from our God." Excuse me, I substituted R for your. But I'm just trying to show you, it's very, very short. We can all do this. You just pull it out and just do it. And so maybe it's a beginning to getting to the propers. Even if your priest doesn't let you sing anything else, you can sing these simple little communion propers that are all written out. Every single one of them is written out. This one, for example, "Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel," etc. You get the idea of how it goes. Finally, I just want to mention the translation is exactly the same as what's in the Simple English propers. It's exactly the same word for word. It's exactly the same as what's in the Gregorian Missal. It's exactly the same as what's in the Vatican II hymnal. And we're also adding psalms so that if you want to use this and make them longer, for instance, at the offertory or something, we're adding psalms that you can use with those. So I hope that this overview has given you some idea of what's on its way, and we'll have more information, like I say, very, very quickly, we hope, God willing, very quickly, within a week or two. We'll have more information because the book will already be published and selling. It'll be sold at a very reasonable price, because the object behind this is to get people singing the propers and to stop replacing the Mass. I believe St. Pius the 10th said, don't pray at Mass, pray the Mass. And with the Simple English psalm tones, Simple English propers, and all the other versions, you can say, don't replace the Mass, sing the Mass. Stop replacing the Mass, sing the Mass. Thank you.